Hello! Welcome to the 2024 awards that I do here at LVLS Whenever. We've got a whole bevy of various accolades to give that are ultimately insignificant outside of my own personal preferences, but hey, we're doing it anyway. It's been a little while since we recorded anything, so I feel we'll do some pickups before we actually get into the awards proper. And we'll start with what I currently have. I've got at least 2 other things I'm expecting between now and when this video goes up. But it's kind of an interesting duology of games I've acquired. I've got Fantasia Neo Dimension, the latest from Mistwalker, as well as Final Fantasy 1 through 6 Pixel Remaster. Finally got this after waiting for it to not be freaking $75. $45 was much more reasonable. And then I also got the latest steelbooks of the Marvel TV series that I like, Loki Season 2 and Hawkeye. Hawkeye was actually surprisingly good. I still need to catch up on like everything that came out this year. We are in the second wave of pickups, and these are Femtendo items. So we'll start with the one disc system game, which is Sylviana. This is complete. It's probably the most expensive one I bought. But when it's a protagonist that's a woman, I have to kind of go for it. I also got Elcian, which lets you pick a male or female avatars. Gunnak, which I'm very excited about because the Japanese version has a woman protagonist that the North American version does not. And then I got SDKG Blader, which does have some women as supporting characters for the party. And then I got Crash of the Boys, or Kunio Nenketsu Shinkiroku, again, because I didn't realize that the women were actually playable, because they're the managers, so in between the sports competitions you can play as them. So that's kind of neat. And then Mylon Secret Castle, which I don't know if I'm actually going to keep this one for a long period. I need to do some more research. The villain may be a woman, so I might have to do yet another errata because I'm already doing one for the queen that you have to rescue. My Fangamer order arrived. It took a nice little jaunt across the country, but it's finally here. So let's show off everything. So first off is this desk mat that is actually going to be used as a desk mat, unlike my Ace Attorney one, which I used as art. I got the Short Hike Claire plushie. She comes with a hat. It's cute. I need to clean it a little bit because I can see that there's some danglies I need to take care of, but really happy to have that. I also got the Capcom Fighting Legends bicycle cards because I like collecting playing cards of video game stuff, and that art's really nice. I got the Emma Sky Snack Ooze pin, which was what convinced me to even do this order. And then along with all that, there's some stickers that came with the medley of shirts I'm about to show you. So based on what I am revealing, can you guess what shirts I got? And then, as always, they send a little postcard. And this one's Banjo-Kazooie. And then they also sent a Kami Fangamer crossover, which is oddly appropriate given what happened at the Keeley commercials with Okami getting a sequel. Alright, I also got 4 shirts because I figured I might as well go for it. So I got a Short Hike shirt finally. I love this game. I think it's wonderful, and I think it was high time to finally add merch to my stuff. They also had Castlevania stuff, much like with the mat that they added for Dominus Collection, and this is all the DS protagonists. I really like that shirt. I cannot turn down an opportunity to have more Soma merch. And then I got 2 Ace Attorney shirts, Apollo Justice, Specific, this one. Trucy is one of my favorite characters, so I just had to go for it. And then I got another one because I love Ace Attorney. And this one is from the DLC quote-unquote case for the Game Boy Advance original, which was added to the DS game. And alright, we've got one last pickup before we actually get into the awards. Weird coincidence, I didn't expect this, but the Arcade Memories Volume 3 for the Eager 2 Mini arrived today, Sunday. Came with the Taito Station magazine as well. They don't necessarily say to be continued. They say take off to a new scene. Not sure what that's going to mean for the future of the Eager 2 Mini. Maybe they're finally done and moving on to the next thing. Maybe they're working on expanding the hardware to do 3D games, or Laserdisc games, or multi-monitor games, or other games. We'll find out soon enough. Alright, we are finally ready to get started with the actual Them Awards that I do 2024. Thank you, first of all, for tuning in and taking part in my little celebration of gaming and miscellany. I added a few new categories this year. We have Best Video Game Remaster Remake, Best Retro Compilation, Best DLC, and I have eliminated Best Movie TV because I only saw Deadpool and Wolverine and watched 2 episodes of Agatha all along. Didn't really feel like I could give a proper evaluation on things. So I just kind of left that behind. Otherwise, we have the usual suspects. But before we get into the actual video games themselves, let's cover the things that I've posted about already. So you may have missed my favorite streamers, content creators in 2024 posts. You may not have caught Best Album, Best Song, Best Video Game Remix, Best Video Game Soundtrack, Best Video Game Song. Those all have posts. You can check them out in the description. We'll run through those real fast, and for this year, just to make things a little bit more expedient, I'm going to try to focus a lot more on the winner, and just kind of briefly mention the runners-up. So, for non-video game stuff, we've got Best Album going to the Linda Lindas, No Obligation. They just kept knocking out single after single this year that were just bops, and once the entire album came out, I was just like, wow, this is really, really good. Easily their best overall work, and a lot of it ended up on my Isolate playlist because it just fits so well. I think that the runners-up are Boa's Whiplash and Phaser Day's Soft Power. Both of those are exceptionally good albums as well. I just think the Linda Lindas just exploded this year, though. Best song went to Summer Wales with Crack. Really good song that just I happened to stumble upon on YouTube, and it was a delight to discover them. And now I've got like everything of theirs, and they're relatively new. And it's just got such good energy, and even though I can't really understand much of it because a good chunk of it's in Japanese, it's really good. Really good, really distinct, really them. Our Lady Peace's I Want to Be Your Drug and Beach Bunny's Clueless are the runners-up. Both of those are fantastic songs. I will say that Our Lady Peace Rain is singing with like his full range of vocal talent again after so long where it's just been kind of the same. So I'm really happy with these new songs that they've been releasing so far. Let's go ahead and get the merch out of the way. Best video game book. The only one I really got this year is Unicorn Overlord Official Design Works. This is a beautiful book. I'm really glad I imported it. We'll see if somebody actually gets around to doing something else with it. But for now, I'm really pleased with that. Best video game toy goes to this little Leon. I've been trying to get a Leon figure forever, and this was convenient. The runners-up went to the Splatoon 3 DLC amiibo, kinda. So naturally, Off the Hook gets number 2 because they're my favorites of the bunch. And then the Squid Sisters got number 3 because they're also really good. The Isaac Clarke Figma figure for Dead Space is also really good. Just missed it. Alright, video game music. Best video game soundtrack. Ode to Castlevania and Vampire Survivors. 36 remixes of my favorite franchise that's not Metroid. I'm there, and they're all really good. That's actually one of the big reasons I got so hooked on Vampire Survivors. But we'll talk about that when we actually get to other awards. Unicorn Overlord and Neva got 2nd and 3rd place. Both of those soundtracks are also exceptionally good. Best video game song. Well, these two, once again, came back with We're So Back. And finally gave me the sound in Splatoon 3 that I've been craving for so long. Just absolutely smashing good song, especially the Grand Festival Live version, which is the one that I nominated. So Long by Neva and Terry's theme Kurikinten Street Fighter 6 Arrange from Street Fighter 6 are the runners-up. Best video game remix. This was a tough one this year. There was some really good stuff. I ultimately gave it to Alina Gingertail for her superb and sublime Diablo Tristram theme cover. And if you know me, I don't like Blizzard that much. That's like the one thing about Blizzard that I can tolerate is that song in that game. And Elena killed it. She just nailed the vibes perfectly with a really rich, layered instrumental with some vocals, and just, it's good. It's really good. Nyx the Shield got 2nd place with a splendid Donkey Kong Country 2 Sticker Brush Symphony remix. And Gametal remixed one of the songs I've always thought would be perfect for a metal remix, Captain Falcon's theme from F-Zero GX. Way to go, Johnny. Thank you for doing that. Alright, let's start getting into the game awards that I will actually elaborate a little bit more on. We will go from DLC upwards on the actual post. It'll make sense if you read the blog. So that way we can end on the best 2024 game of the year. Alright, so best DLC goes to Vampire Survivors with Ode to Castlevania. I never thought I'd even get into Vampire Survivors. It didn't look initially like a type of game I'd like. It's a roguelite. So you go in, you do what you do, and then when the game level ends, usually by death running in, you're kicked out. You can boost up some stats to do better next time, but you're basically starting from scratch again. This is the first roguelite that I can say unequivocally that I love, and it's primarily because of this DLC. No offense to the original game, but I love Castlevania. And it's clear that Poncool, the developer, loves Castlevania 2, because if you play this, it's really noticeable. Not only is practically any major character in a Castlevania game in this game as a playable character. Not only are there 36 brand new remixes, not only is there a level that is a beautiful tribute to so many games in the franchise with bosses, enemies, and locations plucked right out of the games. Not only is there a wide array of weapons taken from the series, it's just Castlevania in a new coat of paint. This is the Castlevania sequel I think we've all been waiting for in terms of a crossover extravaganza. And the great thing is that now that I've played Vampire Survivors as a whole, because I had to play through some of the base game, and I also bought the Contra DLC, it all just comes together really well to be a fantastic game. I could see why so many people were talking about it last year. But Ode to Castlevania is the reason why I bought it, and it's the reason why I will continue to play it, because it is what I crave. Being able to play with all those characters and listen to the music and brand new arrangements and wander around in a Castlevania-inspired space, it's great. It's a really good time. Street Fighter 6 and Guilty Gear Strive had some DLC characters that ended up in the runners-up slots. Terry and Elfelt, love both of them. I think they were both excellent. I gave Street Fighter 6 a slight edge because of the World Tour edition that comes along with Terry, which was incredible. If Vampire Survivors didn't wow me so much, it would have been number one. And Elfelt's just a great character. Best retro compilation. Well, there's not too many options here. When you release something like this, when you release Marvel vs. Capcom, everything retro in a single compilation, and you do it with absolute class, that is easily one of the best retro compilations on modern platforms, hands down. It's a labor of love. It genuinely is. I am so happy to be able to play those games whenever I want. And I did. I played through all the fighting games, basically, in November when I got the physical. And it was a grand time. I was really happy. I'll play the Punisher at some point. That was just not as big of a priority. But I'm going to be digging into that probably more next year and actually just goof around with teams and try to figure out what I want to do. And maybe play online. I don't know. Runners up goes to Apollo Justice Ace Attorney Collection. Is excellent. I actually like how they did everything. The menus are great. The extras are fantastic. It looks good. It's got just a lot of care went into it, obviously. And it's 3 really solid games that will look and play better than they probably ever have. Sunsoft is back. Retro Game Selection is number 3. I would have considered giving Atari 50th, I think is what it is, anniversary, a spot for its extra DLC that they released this year, but I really felt like it kind of just built off of what was already there for last year. I got it this year, so I can't award it this year. But Sunsoft did release a nice 3-game compilation, and the emulation is rock solid. It has all the features you would want. Really nice art gallery. You can look at the cartridges in a 3D model, which is kind of neat. It's really good in terms of quality. Maybe could have used more than just 3 games on it, but in terms of quality, it's good. It's definitely worth investing in. Best Video Game Remaster Remake. The only time Ubisoft is going to come close to winning anything in the next who knows how long. Because they released Beyond Good and Evil 20th Anniversary, and unlike HD, they actually put in a lot of work, time, care, and attention into this one. There's a bunch of documentary content that they added, a huge art gallery that they added. They even added some new costumes for the characters to wear, and there's nods to that nebulous whatever the thing is going to be prequel if it ever gets done. So they actually went in and did some work, and it's not half-assed either. Like, I played through the first bit of the game and I was impressed. And they also remastered the music, and the remastered soundtrack is really nice. Christopher Hurrell did a fantastic job to begin with, but he came back and just touched it up in the ways that it needed to be touched up. It's really good. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is number 2, and the Hokkaido Serial Murder Case is number 3, which I haven't played too much into that, but it's a rather nice English localization of a Japanese classic that I need for Femtendo. Alright, our difficulty awards. The hardest challenge went to Osmond, the arcade game. That game's hard. I really had to spam a lot of continues to get through that one. Ultimately, it's a nice continuation of the vibes of Strider, but it doesn't quite reach the highs of Strider either. Gimmick from Sunsoft is number 2. That is also an extremely challenging game. If I didn't have Rewind, I don't know if I'd beat it. And there's a lot of tricky, unlockable stuff to get the best ending that I didn't do. Easiest Cakewalk went to Trip World DX, which, you know, is kind of the point. The game's not really meant to be difficult. It's kind of like the counter opposite of Gimmick in some ways. Still a cute game, still lovely. It's a good thing I don't have biggest failure to emulate properly, because this would probably win it as well. But anyway, I know that came out last year, but the Japanese version came out this year, so I'm counting it. Time Gal is number 2. It's pretty much you just got to push the things at the right time to get a progress type of thing. So, I mean, it could be a hardest challenge if you didn't have save states and rewind. Like I did. Alright. Sad Awards. Sad Awards time. Biggest disappointment. Splatoon 3. Side Order. That really was not what I was wanting out of Splatoon. As I was just saying with Vampire Survivors, I don't like most roguelites or roguelikes. Hades and Vampire Survivors is pretty much it. And Hades is on the strength of its characterization, world building, visuals, music, and solid gameplay that I like, but I don't really thrill about playing through it 50, 60 times to try to get a good run. Vampire Survivors has such a simplistic but fulfilling hook with its gameplay. All you do is move, really. That I think that overpowers a lot of the challenge, so to speak, in these types of games typically. So I could just focus on one thing and enjoy that bit of it, and enjoy the fact of just being in the moment and being swarmed. Splatoon 3, the Splatoon mechanics, to me, don't fit that model. Having to pick a weapon and then upgrade it along the way, and none of the things are necessarily permanent, and you might just get a bad loadout. It kind of sucks. It kind of sucks for me, because they also locked Egopolis Plaza and Off the Hook in terms of a hub area behind beating that mode. I don't know if I'm ever going to. I don't know if I care. The aesthetic is awesome. The vibes are awesome. The story is awesome. The gameplay's not awesome for me. So for me, that's the biggest disappointment, I think, of the year. Bard's Tale 4, Barrows Deep, is the first runner-up. I really was not thrilled with how that game ultimately panned out. As someone who played the Commodore 64 originals, and that was a big part of my teenager livelihood, exploring those games. I never got super far in any of them, but I had fun. I feel like the biggest issue with Bard's Tale 4 is that the way they modernized it was just not how I would have done so, because I had actually created a game design around that idea. It's true to the spirit of the original games, but it's not how I would like to have seen it come out. And I really would have liked more customization options. I really felt locked with how my Christ interpretation turned out. So, didn't really care for that. King of Fighters 13 Global Match is the last runner-up in the disappointment category. But I'm going to talk about that more in the worst game I played of 2024. Which is not that. It's actually Return of the Invaders, which came out on the Eager 2 Mini. UPL's take on Taito's classic really lost the plot of what makes Space Invaders good. It certainly isn't the visual overhaul from cute, charming, simple sprite work to overcomplicated, ugly, blocky sprites. And it doesn't feel good to play in comparison to most other Space Invaders games that Taito made themselves. So that was a bummer. That was a big bummer. King of Fighters 13, though, is right behind it. And this is why. I don't like the way it looks. I don't like the way that the character designs turned out for that game. I don't like the backgrounds. There's some racist shit happening in those backgrounds. And it's disappointing that a game that came out in the last 10-15 years has that kind of shit happening in the background. It's offensive. And they didn't scrub it out when they re-released it. They just left it in there. And it's like, why? So, aesthetically, I don't like the game. Playing through arcade mode is a drag because everybody talks to each other. So you can't just jump into fight and then have a little bit of dialogue with like a mini boss or a final boss. Everyone has something to say, and all of it's pretty banal. They brought back King and Yuri's shirt-ripping animation from Art of Fighting, and that is unfortunately stuck around, so I'm a little peeved about that. That needed to die, and it hasn't. And it's just like, when you combine all those things together, like they also redesigned Leona horribly in 12 and 13, and it carried over into 14, 15. Why did they change her outfit? Why is she wearing a sports bra and nothing else up top? It doesn't make any sense to me. There's just a lot of things that I don't like about King of Fighters 13, but I wanted to play it and try it out myself. Was it worth importing it? Probably not, but at least I know. A Cyber Citizen Shockman 2 A New Menace is the last runner-up, probably the least offensive of these three games. It's just mediocre. It's trying, but it's pretty mediocre. Alright, we are now out of the sad awards. Let's talk about the surprise of the year, which you're probably not going to be shocked to learn that it was Vampire Survivors again. Because, as I said, I don't really like roguelite games, and yet this one works. This one works beautifully. And adding Castlevania to it, and Contra to it, is like, just clicked right in for me, especially the Castlevania one. So that blew me away how much I loved it, and it made the top 110 list. Another game that made the top 110 list that surprised me is Mystic Warriors, the spiritual successor to Sunset Riders by Konami, which is a very good game. I really liked that game a lot. It's extremely well done with a lot of great set pieces and visual elements, and it plays well, has a pretty good soundtrack. Underappreciated Konami game. Euphoria 2, The Saga is the last one, and that game is charming and lovely and amazing that Sunsoft could come back with an absolute banger on their own. One of the best visual styles of the year, rivaling Neva as probably my favorite visual aesthetic of the year. It's really good. It's really, really good. It has some procedural elements that I think hold it back from being a top 110 game for me, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close. The best non-2024 game I had played before goes to Resident Evil 4 2023, because I can't stop playing this thing. I'm going to be playing it next year, and it's going to end this award next year, just by default, because it's like number 7 on my list. A Castlevania Aria of Sorrow I also revisited, and that was lovely. And Untitled Goose Game I played with one of my besties, and we loved it. So all of those are very deserving to win this award. The best non-2024 game I had not played before goes to Vampire Survivors. It swept a lot this year. What a great game. What a really great game that is. Just really fun. Just really fun. And like I said, it's dialed back so much that you really just focus on moving and development. And that's it. You don't have to think about much else. And that's the best part. It's a really great, I don't want to think too hard game. But at the same time, it's just full of love. It's full of compassion for what it's representing. It's a really great game. Tchia climbed into my top 110 after all. I did a video review on it, said that it was so close. There were some things that I didn't like, but the more I thought about it and the more that I reminisced on that overall experience, it got in there. And it is a top 110 game. It's a really lovely action adventure that does things quite differently from like your Zeldas, but it's really good and I really recommend it. I don't know how good the Switch version is, but it's good on PS5. And last but not least, Mystic Warriors, sneaking in, blowing me away with how good that game is. It's a really high quality arcade game from Konami that deserves your $8 of arcade archives. Check it out. And here we are. We are at Best Game of the Year. Let's go ahead and go backwards from third, second, first. Third place goes to Another Code Recollection. The game that was really close to being second for almost the entire year. I think that this is a superb reimagining of two games that were made by Sing, underappreciated developer, brought back to life by Arc System Works and several key Sing staff, that they really loved it. They loved what they were doing with this, and you can tell it's just everywhere in the game. And a lot of people just didn't give it a chance, or I don't think appreciated what this is trying to do. It's a lovely duology that now syncs up really well together, and this is like a director's cut. There's some things that have changed from the old games to this remake, but I don't mind. I think it works. I love Ashley. I think she's a wonderful character. I think that everything they built around her in these two games works extremely well. It's well written. It's got great music. It's got a nice art design and visual aesthetic. It's a lovely game. Number 2 goes to Neva. Neva, I just literally finished before recording this video. I sat down and played it all the way through. I didn't get all the collectibles, so I didn't get the best ending, but I got the standard ending, and I watched the best ending because I'm not going to probably want to play through all of the game again so quickly. As a huge fan of Grease, I don't think any follow-up that Nomada could have done would have eclipsed Grease, because Grease is my fourth favorite game of all time. It is essentially me in a lot of ways. I have taken it in as a huge part of myself. That's not to say that Neva is bad. I put it in the top 30. I think it's a fantastic game. I think it is a brilliant game. It does a lot with new mechanics, new concepts, new visual design. It's a great game all the way through. The combat feels good, simple, but it feels good, especially once you get that dodge sword vibe going. You can really just get through enemies pretty quickly, and then there's nice unlockable additions that I'm not going to get into because I'll keep the spoilers a minimum. I'm going to talk about Neva in a Levels Plus Whenever episode real soon. Visually stunning game. I knew it was going to be, but this is, I kept, my jaw was open like half of the game because it is so lush with visual awesomeness and creative backgrounds and design. It's a gorgeous game, start to finish, even in its darkest parts. The soundtrack is amazing. The soundtrack is stunning. Berlinus did it again. And Alva and Neva's story is really well told. There are a couple elements that I feel stumble a little bit, and I'll talk about that in a separate video, which will be very spoilery. But on the whole, Neva delivered what I hoped it would, which was a follow-up to Grease that does its own thing and is still excellent. It is all those things. It may not be as good as Grease, but very little things are, in the grand scheme of things. My number one game of the year isn't either. Very few games top Grease for me. So I'm very, very happy with Neva, and I'm so thrilled that I got to play another Nomada Studio game that really, really delivered a new experience and a great narrative. That was all I wanted, and I got it. The best game of the year is Unicorn Overlord. For me, personally. Vanillaware delivered the Ogre Battle follow-up spiritual successor I have dreamed of for decades. Since Square Enix can't do it themselves. They can't even re-release Ogre Battle or Ogre Battle 64. They probably won't at this stage. I don't think Tactics Ogre Reborn set the world on fire. But Vanillaware took it upon themselves to revisit that idea, that seed that Quest had created years ago. And they put their own spin on it. And it is such a delightful spin. It was joy playing through Unicorn Overlord from the beginning to the end. I love this game. I love the characters, even though they're not much beyond Fire Emblem on the Game Boy Advance levels of depth. I love them. They're awesome. They're fantastic. They have great pairings and great connections, and they look awesome on the battlefield. I love the soundtrack. It's really well done and really engaging, and while it's not perhaps as hard-hitting as some other soundtracks of this type. I think that it kicks ass. The gameplay is amazing. Oh my god, that's what really stands out. Is the mechanical depth of building a team and pairing them with weapons and accessories and classes that work together in different ways to create things that break the game. I love that. It's really fun. I have some really great teams that I'm really love their synergy in Unicorn Overlord. Its biggest fault is a narrative. It's not a very exciting plot. It's pretty boilerplate. It's not the emphasis of this game. That disappointed quite a few people, and I think it's why it kind of fell out of the discussion for Game of the Year for a lot of people, is because it's kind of forgettable in some ways. But for me personally, Unicorn Overlord is what I've wanted Vanillaware to do in terms of being less skeevy. There's still fan service, but it is at least toned down and not in your face as it is with so many of their other games. It's got great moments. It's got wonderful visuals. Like, when I think about this year, we had Euphoria 2, the saga, doing this great arts and crafts style that rivals Kirby's Epic Yarn in terms of taking that art room decor vibe and nailing it so beautifully. Then we have Neva, which is like a feast of the eyes. It is a watercolor slash... I don't know what else they use to do the artwork in that game, but you see the watercolor inspiration carried over from Greece, as well as with other visual design or artistic design elements that just oversaturate you with gorgeousness. And then there's Vanillaware, who are experts at creating these complex sprites that have so much going on with them, but the rich backgrounds and the amazing animations all sync together to create the most splenduous, I'm making up words right now, it's the most sensational look for a strategy RPG that I could think of. It is the most beautiful game of this style ever, as far as I'm concerned. And it's fun, start to finish. Like, I could pick this up, put it back in, dive in, and just goof around for a little while and still have the time of my life. Retooling teams and doing stuff in the arena and wandering around, collecting things I might have missed. It's that good. It is everything I hoped it would be. It exceeded expectations, even. And that's why it's my game of the year. It presented itself as this Ogre Battle's spiritual successor, and it went beyond what I would have hoped. And I had high hopes for Unicorn Overlord. I went full in, Monarch Edition, knew it was going to be something special, and it truly was. This was a great game. Neva's a great game. Another Code Recollection's a great game. A couple other runners-up, Tekken 8, really solid, really great game. Vampire Survivors Ode to Castlevania. Marvel vs. Capcom's back. Wow. Like, and there's some others, like Euphoria 2, also exceptionally good. There was some great games that came out in 2024. It's a shame that the industry has not gotten better. It's a shame that it's gotten worse in many ways. The industry is shit. The game industry is shit right now. More jobs were lost. More companies folded or made extremely bad decisions. That led to layoffs. The biggest one I could think of is Concord. Everything that happened with Concord was a fucking travesty. And it's like, Sony, what the fuck are you doing? Seriously. and they don't seem to have learned anything. Microsoft did some real heinous shit too, firing the entirety of Tango Gameworks, the entirety of Arcane Austin, among other studios, and thankfully Tango got rescued. They kept Hi-Fi Rush, they lost everything else. The Evil Within, Ghostwire Tokyo, that is still Microsoft's to piss away, because they will not do anything with those franchises, but they wanted to keep them. Oh, it just makes me mad. Makes me mad thinking about all that stuff. But that'll probably be a spicy video when I do Dual Life Perspective, which will be the next video, and that'll probably be around the 1st. Highly recommend tuning in to one thing about the Game Awards, and that was the director of Baldur's Gate 3, really heartfelt, powerful, monumental speech that he gave prior to giving out that award. Highly recommend you listen to him, because that's what the industry should be. That's what it needs to become. Corporate greed is not going to cut it much longer. On that note, we will see you for Dual Life Perspective in about a week's time. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of mostly good awards and a couple sad ones. Thank you so much. Have a happy holiday. Take care.